Hello, I'm Henry Lowengarde. Last summer, when AUMI Sings was proposed, I pointed out that the technology side of making synthesized vocals is very wide ranging. You could be modeling a vocal tract, or you could be using existing text to speech software, which could be modified for singing purposes. And there are already existing singing synthesizers, which are mostly intoning what they call Latin syllables, or just ahs and ohs and e's, maybe with ma, mo, mi, la, li, so that they can string together a few syllables and have them sing. And some of these are pretty sophisticated. But choosing a technology for AUMI Sings to work would mean favoring one of these techniques over another and trying to build up an infrastructure to drive the information needed to run these synthesis algorithms. Mm-hmm. Then I looked on the other side of this problem, which is people using AUMI Sings and how that can be used in a choral setting. What kind of voices will AUMI Sings use? Will they correspond to the singers in some way? For example, I might want to have the utterances that these people can make built into the program to build a kind of a voice that they might have had if they could speak. Is that possible? With this in mind, and other issues, I suggested that some composer should write a composition for this, mixed abilities choir, where there are some singers who are using AUMI Sings and many who are not. And in order so that I could design a program, an app, that would be able to realize this composition at the bare minimum. So using the techniques and ideas in the composition, that would help direct how this software could be written, because otherwise it would be all over the place. I mean, it could be anything, as I said. When the project actually started up, it turns out that the composer is going to be me. So that means that I have to use my musical background in order to come up with a composition that I would then use to build the app. So I've started working on this composition a little bit. There are a lot of issues having to do with this artificiality especially that I want to address in the composition. It has to do with voice as a stand-in for a person's ego, for their existence, and for them to recognize themselves through their voices, and for other people to recognize them. And in the great tradition of Pauline Oliveros, there's a lot of listening going on. Because of the technology that I can throw together, it's probably not going to be a piece that has a very stock standard rhythm, but it might have sections of it that are like that, because it might be easy enough to actually realize that credibly. Now, as a composer, my background goes way back to singing in a children's opera chorus when I was a kid, and singing a little bit in some clubs in New York. But also I'm pretty well known as a builder of computer music instruments and music compositions, where it blurs the line between what a composition is and what a piece of music is and what an instrument is. I'm also an obsessive autoharpist who builds auto harps with different chord sets and tunings, and I'm actually building an app that is like the auto harp of my dreams. But I won't get into that right now. And I'm also in two bands right now where I'm playing things like hammered dulcimer, melodica, glockenspiel, tenor recorder, and a whole bunch of gamelan instruments like a gambang, a suling, a jenglong, a gong, and peking, and panarus, and all the instruments that are normally used in an American orchestra. And for the past few decades, the kind of music that I make and enjoy the most are actually endless, beatless, drone-like compositions that are facilitated by my app Dronio and other droning processes. So that's where I'm coming from musically. But I thought, well, since I have a chorus, maybe I could work with something that is more traditionally choral as well as being experimental. So I was thinking of choral ideas, and one that pops up a lot in this context is the traditional call and response kind of composition, which is can be used for choral poetry as well as for music. A leader puts out a phrase, and the audience or the other chorus goes and either repeats it or has a corresponding phrase that goes with it. It's as simple as an audience saying amen, or it could be a more complicated one, or it could be Pete Seeger throwing a line for the next song out to the audience and they sing it. So I'm thinking of that because that's really an engagement. The same call and response technique is how I should build my composition, or at least have a section of it that uses that. And that would emphasize how people who have never spoken before are now not only speaking, but are being heard. And I think that that's really at the core of what I want to do with this composition. So the idea is to use AUMI Sings to give a voice to the voiceless and have that voice be heard, and use that voice as a sign that says, I am here and I exist, and I want to be in your group, and for the people who are not using AUMI Sing to recognize that the people who are using it really can be. There's no reason to exclude them anymore. That's what I'm working up for my composition, which tentatively I'm calling call and response. There may be many other things going on in this composition in different parts of it, or at least it'll have sections in it that will point out different aspects of this ego fusing and technology and playing with the technology itself to bring out some of these issues that I've spoken of today. So stay tuned, as we say in the odd harp world, and we'll see how this turns out. Thank you.